All right, now April is Autism Acceptance Month, and this morning we are joined by Dr. Niki Elliot, a clinical professor and director of the Center for Embodied Equity and Neurodiversity at the University of San Diego. An important topic we want to discuss here. She wrote a book called Heart-Centered Connections, joining us this morning to talk about how to work with neurodiverse children and adults throughout their lives. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm happy to be with you this morning.
Just to help our viewers at home understand, if we could start with the simple question, I know it's not that simple, but explain what neurodiversity would be.
Thank you. So the banner neurodiversity, or the title, started within the autism movement.
Okay.
To suggest that individuals are not just the sum of their symptoms and what society perceives to be deficits. So neurodiversity acknowledges natural brain variations that present with both challenges, but also sets of natural advantages and strengths that need to be supported and addressed collectively.
Okay.
And so under that banner now, it has expanded from the original autism to also include ADHD, dyslexia, also sensory processing disorders, also those who identify as highly sensitive. We also see changes in brain and nervous system in PTSD or trauma, people who have had exposure to trauma or traumatic brain injury, and also fetal alcohol syndrome is what the effects of it, although the source is different, can show up similarly in the classroom and in care spaces.
Okay,
Yes.
so important. And as you're talking, there's so much that, you know, as parents, we wonder, how are our kids doing? Are we giving them everything they need? What was really important is, you know, many people think behavior issues, it's come down to maybe discipline or, you know, do you reward for this action or what it could be, but what should we be looking at instead when it comes to kind of helping our children thrive in whatever, you know, setting they're in?
Thank you. So in Heart-Centered Connections, I think one of the main points that I really want to bring across is that up to now, our work in special education and disability awareness has been focused on behavior. How do I fix this child's behavior? And so what we're asking to do is to say, what if the issue is not just within the child, but within the environment and the relational space that they are impacted by?
Okay.
So what we see in our work is that when we understand what is it about this environment, what is it about this relational connection that the child is within and expected to operate and thrive within, that could be shifted and to make the learning experience, the lived experience, and the community experience more suitable for the child and give you opportunity to see them thrive.
So what you're talking, you know, could be very helpful, obviously, for parents, but also there's teachers that they interact with daily and their classmates. How do we, you know, you mentioned in your book, too, that the children mirror the emotional state of the adults that they're around. What does that exactly mean? I mean, they're feeling our energy, right?
Absolutely. So in my work, primarily, I train classroom teachers, paraprofessionals, which would be the aides that we see in many classrooms, school counselors and therapists, parents as well as foster parents. And what I try to help adults understand is that our nervous system capacity sets the environment, the climate in which children are expected to thrive. And so one thing that we know about many of those diagnoses that I just shared with you that fall under that neurodiversity banner, one thing that's characteristic in many of those diagnoses are more sensitive nervous systems, meaning that for many of these diagnoses, their nervous systems are easier to be triggered into states of distress. We refer to it as mobilization, more fight, flight, aggressive behaviors or shutdown behaviors, and harder to soothe. So in those cases, they depend more on what we refer to as co-regulation, meaning borrowing the nervous system state of an adult or a settled caregiver in order to settle their nervous system back down. So we keep putting it on the child, fix your behavior, go over there and fix your behavior, and then you can earn your right back.
But they need us.
They need our settled state to pattern match and to co-regulate. But what we find is that it is stressful, if we're honest. Many times when we are working to support learners with these diagnoses. And so we start first with self-awareness of the adult. That is the first pillar of Heart-Centered Connection. So we say there are 7 skills that we as adults need to help neurodiverse children thrive. And the first skill is self-awareness
Okay.
of the adult's own nervous system state
gotcha.
and tools for helping the adult build what we refer to as bounce back ability or nervous system capacity.
Dr. Niki, your book is out on pre-sale right now. How do we find this? I can't wait to read it.
Oh my God, please. So you can find it on Amazon, you can find it on Barnes & Noble. I think it's Porchlight if you want to do bulk sales for your whole school or community. So we have lots of nonprofit organizations and schools that are bulk buying the book for book clubs and for professional development. So it's so important to me, if I could just make one point.
Sure.
An autistic child or a child with ADHD is not just autistic at school. And so up to now, our society has marginalized many of these students and children into places where an adult has been specialized trained, right? An ABA therapist or a trained special ed teacher. But that increases marginalization. So many of these families have children who've never been able to be in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, don't get to go to summer camp at the YMCA, miss out on faith formation because Sunday school teachers, right? Coaches on sports teams. Like, this has been my son's experience. If it's not your lived experience, you're not aware that we all have a responsibility. Foster parents who are bringing children into their homes with good hearts, but they don't have the skills to adapt their environment or their relational practices to support the distinct needs of neurodiverse children. So my point in Heart-Centered Connections is that these are 7 skills that every adult who touches the life of a child needs so that we can do our right part of helping each of them reach their capacity and capability.
Wow, so important for all of us to learn from this, I mean, even for ourselves, right? Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us today.
Thank you, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Glad to get to talk to you. I know we could talk for much longer about this.